Hey there, Emily here at the Movement Clinic, and today we're breaking down pyramid pose, which is in the Warrior One family or series of poses. If you haven't had a chance yet to check out the Warrior One tutorial, I suggest that you pause and do so now. Or if you're just here for pyramid, awesome. Let's get started. Okay, so for pyramid pose, sometimes when we're first starting out, it's a lot easier to come into this with a couple of blocks. So I love my yoga props. I use them all the time. So if you have a couple of blocks handy, or maybe a couple of big books or something that can lift the ground to meet your hands so that your hands have something to rest on, please, by all means, hit pause, find them, and bring them here. Otherwise, let's get started. So much like Warrior One, we're gonna put some distance in between our feet as far as the width is concerned. So center of the ankles in line with bony hip points. So of course, how far apart your feet are or close is dependent upon your physiology. So sometimes it helps to stand somewhere behind these blocks to start. Place your hands on your bony hip points and just make sure, maybe with the line of sight, that it sort of lines up with the center of your ankles. Soften your knees, pick up your left foot and step it back 3 to 4 feet. Some people can do a longer pyramid the longer they go. I shorten mine up just a little bit. So the distance lengthwise between your feet might end up being a little bit shorter than your Warrior One. So when you flow this out at some point in class, if you're directed to go into pyramid, it might be step your back foot forward slightly. Some teachers will cue that, some won't, but you know that that's an option for you. Now, you can bend the front knee to start. Place your hands on your blocks if you've got them. Walk them back so that they're underneath your shoulders. This is overall, the rule of thumb is that these are an extension of our arms. We want them to be supportive, which is stacked, okay? So gaze at the back foot, plant the back heel, toes are diagonally pointing forward about 45 degrees, root down through the outer edge of the back foot, send the inner ankle through the outer ankle so that you can feel the arch lift, maybe even see the back arch lift. Keep that, lift the belly and roll both thighs to the right. Again, lift the belly. You might think press the inner back thigh back and wrap the outer hip back. Okay, so you might even feel the pelvis begin to square. Now I can't emphasize enough that the top of this back thigh needs to be pressing back powerfully. Now, through the ball of that front foot, slowly begin to press the front leg towards straight. And what I see happen here a lot of the time is people really want to get forward onto the leg, and so they collapse and round forward. Don't. Lift up, find length. Place a hand on that low back and see, is my pelvis square? Is one hip lifting up higher than the other? Try to work on finding this orientation of the squaring of the hips forward, so you could actually maybe rest something on the back without it toppling from side to side. Okay? And you might not be able to get the hips perfectly square today. Don't worry about that. Again, this is the direction that we're moving in. Now, from here, lift the low belly, curl the sit bones under. Lengthen the ribs out of the low waist. Lengthen the crown of the head and the bones behind the ears forward. If you can keep all of this length, then begin to bend and soften the elbows to fold over the leg any amount. The idea being that we want the back and front of the heart to lengthen forward equally. And then eventually, you might find that the hands
can leave the blocks. You might find that you can soften the forehead towards the shin and lengthen the crown of the head towards that front big toe. That could be a long way off. You might be here forever for you, and that's fine. And arm variations with pyramid vary greatly. Whatever you like is really quite wonderful, okay? So let's try the other side, because why not? You can bring the left foot forward and step the right foot back any amount. Make sure there's space widthwise between your feet. Front knee is bent to start. Back heel plants, toes point diagonally forward. Inner ankle presses out through the outer ankle. You'll feel the arch lift, maybe even see it again. Lift the low belly. It's almost as though this lift of the low belly can help make room for your thigh bones, those femurs, to roll in the hip sockets more freely. So roll the tops of both thighs to the left. Press your inner back thigh back powerfully. Wrap that outer left hip back. Keep that, and through the ball of the front foot, begin to press the front leg straight or straightish. And again, maybe hand on the low back to check. Often what you're gonna find is that back hip is popping back and up, and front hip is forward and down. So you might even think, oh, I'm gonna slide my front hip back and down an imaginary wall as my front hip wraps forward and down, and or my back hip wraps forward and down or slides down an imaginary wall. Back thigh presses back powerfully. Send weight evenly into the back foot. Lengthen the ears out of the hips. Begin to soften over the leg as front and back of the heart lengthen equally, forward, 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 as maybe you soften over the leg any amount without just collapsing and rounding. So even though it'll look at some point like you're sort of folded or rounded slightly over the leg, it's the internal actions that make a difference in creating more flexion in the hip, more opening in the back of the front leg, and on it goes. Okay? So that is pyramid pose. Let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, as always, if you have any suggestions, feel free to send them my way. And I'll see you next time at the Movement Clinic.